Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Friday. It's a better way of life with myself, Graham, and Marianne. We've just spent the last 10 minutes allowing everybody to get their hair into place, and now we're there, ready. For Marianne, that was 9 minutes. For me, it was 1 second.
And it doesn't actually look it, but there we go. Once I start on mine, it's a downhill thing, so I have to.
It's a long time, Marianne, since I've had long hair. A long, long time. And it's getting less as the days go on, you know. From this,
You've got pretty good head of hair.
well, from this perspective, it looks fine, right? If I leant forward along the back here, you start to see a crown. One day it will go, and I'll have to shave it all, which will be a shame.
I wouldn't recognise you. Can I just say that I've just seen on LinkedIn today some pretty bad behaviour.
Okay, let's call it out.
One of them was the other day, and this is men on this occasion, not all men, a few, a little bit bad. Somebody the other day on a post of mine, it was, I can't remember which one it was now. It was the one about, I can't remember what it was. Basically, it was the one about lying. I think if people lost the ability to lie, which industries would fall. So when this person said, well, the government and something else, obviously, wow, can't believe you didn't put that one. Sunshine. Don't call me sunshine in a sentence where you put wow and you just.
They called you sunshine.
Well, I mean, I am sunshine, but it wasn't meant in that vein.
No, it's like
meant in that vein.
You listen here, sunshine.
It
was that sort of
I was trying desperately hard to think of an equivalent back to somebody, and the only one back would have been sunshine or mate, and neither of them were going to do the job. So I just replied politely, but.
Can we just say as well, isn't sunshine, isn't it? I'm sorry, but I don't know whether I'm right or wrong here, but isn't it a masculine term? I've never heard any woman be referred to as sunshine.
Derogatory. Come on, sunshine. I think it would be. Yeah. I would hear it as somebody older speaking to somebody.
Yeah, but I've never heard it being used to somebody who's female.
Or maybe he was being complimentary. It didn't have that tone to the post. And the other one that I've just seen is somebody. There's quite a lot of it discussing what somebody should and shouldn't post on LinkedIn. This old chestnut. It's getting about as boring as the old AI M-dash thing, really. But it was somebody saying that they were a bit sick of, I think it was somebody else's post, the content that's out there and what people should and shouldn't post. And I said, well, I should see if I can just see it, but what should you post? Who dictates what you should and shouldn't post? Somebody did quote the LinkedIn rules to me the other day, actually. They actually screenshot them and sent them to me. And I said, well, I'll let LinkedIn decide whether they think I should and shouldn't post stuff. But that they said that the quality out there was awful. And what was the other thing? My internet's not working on my phone. To which I then questioned further and said, well, what is drivel? What's this? What's that? And I said, he said, if it's decent content, post away, but if it's other stuff that's suitable social media, take it there. And I said, but who's dictating, who says? And I said, I'm a self-employed person, so it is my window in. And I said, who makes the rules? Do you know what he said back?
What?
Probably a woman, and then put a laughing emoji.
Oh no, not again. Men, what are you doing?
And then I came on to this, so I didn't respond.
Letting us all down.
I know all men aren't like this. There's some wonderful men out there, but don't go for the old. Like,
right.
Do it. If you know me, you can take the mickey out of me, however which way you can. People that know me, go on. But I was thinking about this. Like, how do people think it's okay? I know that people have got different sense of humour. I know that some people I struggle to understand jokes as well. So I just think people need to potentially be a bit careful if you're going to be jokey with somebody and you don't know them.
Yeah. No, totally that, especially with the whole neurodivergent thing.
Just don't tap me on the head and say sunshine or...
Oh, goodness. Right. Well, I'm going to say, by the time this goes out, because it's not live, by the time it goes out on Friday, and you're watching this live on Friday, hello, you will have been able to now go and read my newsletter for the week, where actually I'm talking about, I know because I've already written it, where I'm actually talking about what is the algorithm. Is the algorithm AI and technology, or is the algorithm people? I'll leave you to go and read it, but let's work this out, okay? The thing is, today, as of today when we're recording this, I posted a sensitive, thoughtful post this morning, intelligent, all around about dyslexia, etc. I even gave examples from my own personal life, etc. And guess what? It's not going to do that well. Do you know why? Because it's serious. And other posts will do much, much better, which aren't. Now, the people are deciding on that, not an algorithm. That's what I'm going to say. The people are deciding on that. So everybody out there that's complaining, this stuff is getting out there and it's getting a lot of likes and this isn't, you're the ones liking it. If you don't like it and you want to like the serious stuff, start liking the serious stuff. Start actually engaging on the serious stuff.
I did think this morning, though, I don't know what I was cleaning, I think, and I did think about like where I might post some things and where I might not. And I probably don't use my Facebook as much maybe now. And I thought actually for somebody that's self-employed, like it is that place you go to maybe share stuff like you would a networking thing or like you would with your workmates, because I don't have workmates. I have my dog sometimes. She's not here today. I don't have that. So is it not just sharing stuff?
Well, it's very interesting you should say that, because I was doing some research yesterday for a client, and I was over on Facebook and I actually saw far more intelligent copy and conversation about said subject over on Facebook than I've seen on LinkedIn. Shame on you people. It's your fault. You're doing it. It's your fault. It's your problem. You're making the problem happen. Anyway. All right. Sunshine. God, dear. That is so awful. That is so awful. Do you know what I think you need to do? You know, you've got the printing press and what, you got that working yet? Your printing press?
Yeah. I have done one that's Little Miss Sparkle, so I should do a sunshine. Yeah, but
you should do a sunshine one.
I have got Little Miss Sparkle one, so I should have different ones.
You should do a T-shirt that says "Call Me Sunshine," right? Yeah. And really, and then get back to Mr. Sunshine. We've got the wonderful Vicki joining us. And,
lovely Vicki.
Let's find out all about Vicki. Vicki, come on in.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
I won't start singing "You Are My Sunshine."
Well, you can do if you want to. That's perfectly acceptable behaviour around here. Vicki.
See, if you call me Sunshine, I'll be all right with
that. Oh.
Now, Vicki, that is not your surname.
No, that's not my surname. That's my business.
No, that's your business name. So tell us your surname, just so that people can go and look you up on the social medias. In case.
So it's Holtom, Holtom for Mike.
There you go. Vicki Holtom.
Yeah.
And your business, what is it you do?
So I am an intuitive health guide. And basically, I help or guide people to reclaim their voice and their true self, because I just feel people may need that space and a safe space and an ear to help guide them to actually get back to them true selves. So it's funny listening to what you're talking about there and the algorithms and what's serious and what people are looking at, and then the misbehaving on social media. And a lot of that, I think, when you look at sort of the noise of society, I mean, I'm very much, my I'm very spiritual, but I'm also, multi-dimensional. So I will, be quite spiritual and grounded, but I'm also quite out there and bouncy. And so I'm not in a box. I'm quite icky with labels, because I get there's labels so that people aren't confused. But at the same time, I kind of think, well, what purpose does a label make? Is it going to change somebody either positively or negatively? So being sort of in the wellness realm, if somebody gets a diagnosis, they become their diagnosis sometimes, which isn't helpful. Sometimes if you don't even know you have something, you just carry on in life as normal. And then as soon as someone says, you've got this, they go, oh, okay, I've now got this, and now my life's going to be affected that way. Whereas they hadn't had any issues before, so to speak. So I have recently sort of changed my business, because again, I tried to fit in. When I met Marianne, we were chatting, and I was saying that I'm just not feeling the passion and the pull to what I thought I wanted to do. And the more I was going into the business world, the more I felt like I was being told what to do, how to do it. So like with the, LinkedIn rules and all this, it's like, well, aren't we all just people, experiencing this planet together, navigating it and showing up the best we can without all this rigid structure? And I guess my spiritual side looks at that and says, you know what, we're souls on this planet navigating it. It's only the society or powers that be have said you've got to do it a certain way. So, you're born, and then you go into the education system where you're put in a box and told you've got to learn this, you've got to do this. And then even when you get to choose some subjects, you're still only told certain ones you can choose from, which doesn't suit everybody. And then, you're guided through life by the do's and the don'ts. So although my sort of modalities are sort of health, it's more to do with holistic. And that's a word that's used so much as well that it made me feel icky saying it, because I was like, so I'm very much based on holding a safe space for people to kind of explore what works best for them. And I can guide people with respects to nutrition, mind, looking at the mind, the body, spiritual side, everything together to let them create the life that best serves them. So I don't go around telling people what to do and don't. I can sort of sit there and explore with them. I don't ever claim to be an expert in a room, but I have got a lot of knowledge and experience. And to me, lived experience is a really, really big foundation, because I'm not only just coming from what I've learned either formally or through podcasts or other specialists, I've actually lived a lot of it as well. So it's coming from own experiences. You can help people, you be more empathetic, more understanding. And I mean, I never, it's never judgmental, everybody's kind of just working their way best they can. So that's kind of me, what I do and how I do it.
Right. Listen, I'll tell you something. Let's go to the sort of rules and regulations bit of it first, because it's creating massive problems in the world, all of this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's now I totally understand why that everybody creates everything around rules and regulations. It's because people are scared, right? They're scared that they're going to be caught out. There's going to be misuse, and then a platform will get taken off, or get threatened in its entirety because somebody has used a platform for their own purposes. But there's just no common sense going into any of it, as you rightly said, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it a few times recently, right? A couple of examples. One is today. I have complained about a parking situation at a certain airport where we left our car to go on holiday. We got back and there's an electrical fault with the car, right? There was nothing wrong with the car when we left the car. Yeah. I have complained about it to said airport, which is difficult because it's not easy to find an address and you have to fill in a form which isn't even the form that you're meant to fill in order to get through to them. I finally get a response today where they go, our policies and procedures say any visible damage to the vehicle has to be reported before you leave. I've gone back. Yeah, listen to the words you're saying. Visible damage. It says nothing about electricals, right? I want to know who's put jump leads on my car before, or while I've been on holiday, right? I said, there's two ways I can deal with this. One is you can just ignore it. Secondly, I can go public with it and you will feel the wrath. Simple as. You have to fight fire with fire sometimes. But it's stupid. Why can't you just actually have a conversation? Secondly, this one will make you laugh. It's actually Marianne's fault, right? She doesn't know about this yet, so I'm waiting to see her laugh. Marianne did a post a little while back, and we included that post in a talk that we did on going viral on LinkedIn. I wanted to share that talk, so I uploaded the talk in its entirety to YouTube so that I could put it, even though it wasn't a public video, so that I could put it online as a course, right? I got a ban from YouTube, right? And right, I've had to go through their training, right, on sexual content and whatever, because during that talk, Marianne brought up a post where she shared a butternut squash, which may have looked like a part of someone's anatomy, but it wasn't. But AI looked at it as part of that, as completely out of context, and went, "You're sharing nudity." Absolute nonsense. This is the world we live in now, right? Everybody's so scared, right?
Yeah.
But rather than coming back to the grounding rules of context, right? Is it within context? Is there intelligent conversation around this or whatever, or is it literally just shared for the sake of scandal? There's no kind of human eye on any of this stuff anymore, and even the humans aren't acting as humans. We're now acting as AI on other people's stuff, and we're just being daft about it. Sorry,
I used the word, didn't I? And that got taken. The best of it is that they took one of them, the comments down, but not the other. And if they'd have actually seen it in context, it was very clear that it was about that you eat. So I think the whole, I was watching something yesterday morning, I think it was, about AI and about how, like, it was to do with how far we go with it all, and homes being run by AI and everything being run. And they said, there will be not limits, but there'll be limits in terms of how much people want to use it. And it does do. I was thinking about this morning coming out of the gym, thinking if we didn't have AI now, like how much longer it would take to do stuff. And so whilst people might moan about it, what about if we didn't have the internet once upon a time, But it's like so many of these things, it depends how it's used. I mean, Vicky, you could probably think for your business, I'm the same as mine. I mean, you saw at the event we were at the point when, so I met Vicky at a sales funnel event.
Yeah, like a funnel. Yeah.
Funnel
funnel, yes. And one of the people that was presenting, or talking, I don't know what you want to call it, made a comment to me, and I think you probably saw, because I think there was a few of us that were similar sort of people there that probably struggle with the whole salesy thing that's done in a certain way. And so when I talked about the fact I do course writing, I was hit with, AI can do that, can't you? And I just looked and I said, you do know what I do? Like, and it was a prime example of where I think it can be supportive, AI, and I think it can, and I think, but I don't think it's a substitute. Similarly with what you do, it's no substitute for, like, when I go and teach people, I know that you can do the course that I deliver. You can do it what's it called? Like e-learning, however that may be, with no input from a human, apart from when you do a micro teach. the quality you're going to get out of the end of it, if you're looking at the quality of the person that's going to teach afterwards, surely it's fundamentally going to be lacking than it is if you're taught by an actual person. Similarly, somebody I'm sure could go and get the information that you may share in some shape or form, but it's not going to be the same as you, because as you said, I know some of what your experiences are, and you bring that to it. When I'm teaching, I bring all the wealth of experience. Last week I had a scaffolder, somebody's got cleaning business, a flooring person, and a social worker. We have very many conversations about culture change, about inclusivity, what that means, how far we can go with that. You can't get that just from AI itself.
No. I think AI is a tool like the internet, isn't it? It's a tool that we use rather than it using us. But it is a human. I mean, I'm very much human connection. I love conversation. I'll talk to anybody about anything. I love it. And
we clicked straight away.
We did. And I think, it's that's what you lack from just AI. I know some people do talk to their AI and have a conversation to and fro, but the actual human connection, and you don't get the same oxytocin and serotonin release. It's, there's brain scans and you don't get that lit up when you're in a conversation with computers. Even like us now online, it wouldn't be the same as if we're in a room together. And that was part of my concern with my business, because I just wasn't feeling it. And it was because most of my clients ended up being online. And I was like, I will offer it online because it obviously gives it, you get more people can come and, it's accessible for more people. But I thrive on the connection between people.
And people do, don't they, as well?
Yes, exactly. And you're healing all the time and you bounce off each other. Whereas if you do an online course, there's no interaction. And I have got a course in the making that I want to offer, but that's not instead of me. That's something that will be there so people can look into that maybe as a stepping stone or just want to do it. But it would still have a session or two with me on online, because people say, how many people sign up to a course, not work wise when you're made to do it, but you sign up to do a course and you never complete it, you drop off. Whereas the ones that have got either an accountability or a once a week call with the person that wrote it, they're more likely to do it, because then when they know they're doing that call, it's something, somebody to talk to, someone to interact with. So they want to do the work before, then when they they know they're going to get that support, I guess, rather than just being, I've paid for a piece of paper, or it feels like you've done something, doesn't it? And a lot of human connection, I think, is the best way to learn, because AIs, we are the supercomputers AI is learning off of at the end of the day, aren't we? It's because of what we know that they've learned. It's just scraping the internet for all other people's knowledge and experiences. So we are the supercomputer that AI is trying to become, and we're using it.
Isn't it? I think then, if you look at, like last week when I was teaching, everybody always knows I'm always available, and Graham knows what I'm like. I'm always available, but I made it particularly clear that I said, I know that these guys are very, very busy, and I said, look, I'm going to make a point of contacting you afterwards. I'm not checking up on you. I'm just going to check in, just because I know what happens. People finish the course and they're like, right, that's that done, right, out the window, and I feel as if, like, when you have them in that space, they're with you.
Yeah. And
Graham knows I've spoken at length. My business constantly changes. I think Graham probably just, I don't know if you celebrate it or despair, but I'm constantly thinking how I can change things or improve things. And that was one of them that I said, actually, particularly with these groups, they're very busy people, and particularly afterwards, where they're going to take it, they don't have time. They don't have time. And whilst they've learned one thing from me, there's something else I can offer them, because there's only so much time we have. And I, as I said to Graham, I think that there are some people that are very, I want to say sensible, but it's not. I suppose if you accept that I do what I do well, these guys accept that they're like, I do what I do well, whether it's scaffolding or whatever it is, they're learning how to train, but then is it a step further to say, right, you can write your own training? And they're like, you know, that they know what they know. And I coached them a little bit last week with some of it, but there's some things that actually we should just say, no, I'm, as a Michael that we had on that I'm working with, I'm going to get somebody else to do that.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah,
you know, we can't do everything. And I do wonder sometimes whether we're in a world now where it feels as if we try to or we're expected to. I don't know if it's our own pressure or what it is. I don't know.
I think some people are scared to, though, say no, aren't they? They feel like they're going to be, if you don't say, I don't know that, I'll get somebody who does know, they feel like they're less of a person, whereas I'm quite happy to say, oh, I don't actually know the answer to that. I can find out
I'm
for
not,
you, or I'll get back to you.
As a neurodivergent person, Graham knows when he first met me, I was adamant that it was a bit of a control thing, I admit. Some of it was a control thing. And some of it also was me, if I let somebody do something for me, and Graham knows I really struggle with this, in my mind, all I'm hearing is, he's doing that for you because you're not very good, and he knows it, and he, you know, and that's why, I don't know if you see it with some of the people you work with, I really benefit in terms of like a relationship, whether it's a friendship actually as well. And just a small thing, I ended up supporting somebody just from a random phone call that if people let me help them back, it really helps me accept help. But I also have to accept if there's money changing hands, all they are doing, as you say, Graham, is exchange of resource. That's what it is. That I have to keep saying I'm paying this person to do a job for me because you are not Wonder Woman, even though I may think I am. You're not. And actually, if this person does it better, because they'll get it done, because that's the other thing, is that it actually gets it done. But that's been a very, very difficult thing. I know that a lot of neurodivergent people probably would.
I think with what you're saying there is it's like reframing it. So, I mean, for me, I'd say it's an exchange of energy. So I wouldn't take it to the level of, oh, it's whether somebody knows something or doesn't know something. To me, it's an exchange of energy. It's like two humans helping each other out. And if I word it in like that, then it feels so much more, it's almost personal. Then it's like, yeah, they're helping me out, I'm helping them out. And that exchange in energy. And again, that's why AI can't take its place, because you're not exchanging energy with the computer. It's basically done what you've put something in there and it's just spilled out a load of stuff.
Do you think though that with what you do, and like I said, that you know, you and I sat next to each other, and there was other people in the room that I just didn't feel it with. Nothing against them, I just didn't feel it with. And I wonder if that's where I said this to Graham. I said, I just met you, and it, you know, when you just know with people, and I wonder if that's where, you know, when you've got that energy between two people, I then don't ever question accepting help of people where I feel that that's okay. Whereas some people, I know this goes back to maybe being younger and that whole, then when I was diagnosed, I was like, oh right, this all makes sense because of people lording over me. Because of at uni, one of my friends saying, do you want me to check your work for you? What I'm hearing there is, I am better than you, therefore I can check it, which essentially that's what I didn't do it back to her. So I now, the biggest thing for me was I put myself around people that help bring out the best version of me.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I sort of say intuitive, because it's listening. It is. And I think people, like we were saying earlier, we say about the world, you know, what is it? But it's got so noisy that we aren't giving ourselves the time and the quiet to actually listen to our inner voice. And that speaks volumes. You will learn so much from yourself. And there where you were able to, you know, when you walk into a room and you read the energy, the vibe, and you're like, this isn't for me, or it is. People will often override that because they think I've got to be here. And, you know, then that, I mean, that was a bit like there, you know, and there was a lot, and, you know, you got misunderstood there. I did when I was trying to explain something. The guy there was trying to tell me what I was going to do. I said, that's not what I'm doing. And he couldn't get it. And I was just like, it's a room of egos in a way, to a point. No disrespect to some of them, but it was. But again, coming back to your point about your uni experience, again, this is stuff that I talk to people about. Is a lot of it comes down to how we have interpreted things. So you just said what I heard, but that's you hearing that person. She
do you know
didn't
what
mean
she
it
was
like
like,
that.
mind you?
No, I
what
don't
she
know. I
was
mean,
like.
if I just took it from face value,
Yeah,
there are people
absolutely,
out there,
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
lording over you, and that's not fair. That's that's unkind. But if some people will genuinely just come and say, I mean, I've not along those lines, but I have had my own issues in the past, and I know that mine is more body image and little words and noises I had from other people. Now that's how I've interpreted it, but it's stuck with me all my life, that is now something I'm having to work through. But I know that I'm not going to let that have power over me going forward.
Absolutely.
So it's that, like you kind of realize what it is, and you're like, yeah, I don't have to be with people that make me feel inadequate, uncomfortable. I'm going to choose who I'm around, and we all have that choice. And I think that's what's lost as well. People forgotten that we all have choices. And
You don't have to. Yeah,
you don't have to do anything.
The minute I know people refer to themselves as Marmite, and I used to, and now I say I'm not, because I don't have to be. You either love me or hate me, but I'm not really bothered by the people that don't really like me anymore. And it was quite a big thing. And I said last week, I see a counsellor, and one of the things that we discussed was about having a conversation about what you've heard. So if you feel that somebody else, if you're having a conversation with someone, let's just say, and they don't agree with you, and you think, I don't think you've I don't what I've said, I don't think you've understand, because you'll be misunderstood. So she said, try actually stopping and saying to that person, I've said this to you. I feel, how have you heard this? So not even saying, how have you heard what I'm saying? And then you have this whole conversation, so that actually you're able then to say, you've heard this, but that's not actually what I was saying.
Yeah.
No, let's face it, that's the main reason that most communication breaks down.
Well, we come with our own agenda when we're hearing, don't we?
We come with our own agenda when we hear, and we assume that what we've heard is what we think it is, as opposed to what the other person is trying to. And sometimes it's really difficult to articulate certain things, especially if it's things that are really painful or difficult for us. Then we actually sometimes struggle with that, and that in itself can cause a problem, because the other person's like, well, spit it out, why can't you just say it? I say to my children, I say, it's a difference between hearing and listening. You can hear what someone says, but have you actually listened to what they said? And the other thing is, it's listening to understand, not to answer.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's what a lot of people, like you say, the agenda, you sit there and you can see that while you're still speaking, they just can't wait to say their bit. Your words almost like trapping, you just want to stop them getting out. And I think that's a big thing as well. Let's bring this right back to the kind of whole world of work for a minute. The speed is part of the problem, isn't it, these days? The speed of everything, I think, because I think one of the reasons we're shooting ourselves in the foot all of the time is because we just don't give people any time anymore for anything. What we think now is, if we use all of these great tools, put it online, use AI, do this, do that, or whatever, it's better that people have got training on this, that, or the other than not got training on this, that, and the other. Right? But is it? Because if you don't give people time to absorb what it is that you've imparted upon them,
it just becomes
another thing. I'm not surprised that we're seeing so much burnout. No. Well, because I think humans aren't evolved to have all this information. No, our brains aren't able to have that. We're not computers. Yeah. We're not computers. No. Right? No. And we're saying to people, make great decisions. And then we're not giving them any time to make great decisions.
No.
that stupid person, sorry, but you are, who sent me that email this morning, right? Going, this is the policy and procedures that we have for the. Think about it for a minute. Think about, this is a customer trying to have a conversation with you so that actually your reputation as a business can be intact, and that actually you bring me back to be a customer again. No, I'm just going to react to what the tick sheet says. Stupid, right?
But then you said the word there, react. They reacted, not responded. So their reaction is instantly
beautiful
to send you the this is the policy, but not responded to the situation, have they?
It was funny. My counsellor was saying about this, and she said, "You respond to things, Marianne, not react." In a good way, and whether it's because of, I don't know, my background or whatever. So this morning I emailed somebody yesterday, and it was because I was wanting to let that person know that I was in the process of doing something that actually is going to take me a bit longer, and I was holding my hands up, not through any fault of mine as such, but it just was. So I was trying to jump in rather than doing what I normally would do, which was run away from it. No response. Anyway, emailed again. Next thing is, so I got a phone call from them, and I said, "Hi, how are you?" "Oh, I'm not too bad." And I said, "Just to let you know, I've got this in hand. Can you just let everybody know?" And I said, "You okay?" And she went, "Not really, no." And I said, "Oh," and I do know this person anyway. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "What isn't wrong?" And I said, "Right, okay." And we sort of explored it a little bit, and I tried to sort of pull it apart, some of the bits, because I do understand some of it. And, I didn't do, having lost my dad when I was younger, and when people either walked away from you or said it could be worse or whatever, I just said, there isn't really anything I could do to fix it right now. I said, but even if you want a cup of tea or whatever, she said, I don't even know if I'd know what to say. And I said, yeah, I get that too. And then I said, is there any way? I said, I know you don't want to go off sick. I said, but maybe, because she was overwhelmed with everything, with life. Her life was. And she said, but nobody else can do my job. I said, if you got run over tomorrow, they would. They absolutely would. And I will check in with her later. But I think the problem you have is that when people are so capable, and when they just do it, and you probably deal with people like that a lot, they just keep going and going. I said to somebody the other day that I was struggling, a friend, and then they came back to me and said, oh, anyway, well, just take care. I thought, okay, I will. Is that it's seen as I don't know if we ourselves see it as a weakness, but there are times I've even said, I can't do this anymore. And then what people say is they run away, and they think they're going to fix you, but nobody can. Sometimes you just need to say,
I'm not okay, or ask for help.
I did it to Graham yesterday. I said, I'm drowning, and he knows what I get like, and it's because we said, I think this isn't exclusively male and female, but I think we've talked about it before on the podcast, and it was with males that work with males, that I think that women have a box and all the stuff goes in there: life, family, exercise, health, work, all of it. But men will tend to I can never say that word, decompartmentalize stuff. And really what he got from me yesterday, I just said, I'm drowning and I can't cope, was me saying, it's all in together. So for me, if the house is a mess, I will struggle to work in my office. Two aren't related. But he knows with me that that's what that means. And sometimes you just need someone just to pick it apart and not say the word prioritize, because sometimes that's not.
No. It's just asking. It's not being afraid to ask for help, is it? But like we were saying earlier about, all this, everything's now. We're human beings, not doings, and that's the thing that people have forgotten. It's always do, but we're human beings, and we need time to just be and just sit back sometimes and say, like, I'm doing this, or like I'm going to be doing nothing is being. We've got to take that step and not see it as a a weakness. It's a priority, like you say, don't use like the word priority, but it's essential. Self-care is essential. It's not, you know, a bonus. It's not something we, you know, we can do when we finished everything else. That's basically, you need that to be able to do everything else. So yeah, it's definitely
inset week. I said to Graham, I need an inset week. I do feel like, you know, if you have annual leave, it's annual leave, and there's rules around whether you're allowed to even look at an email, because people have something to say about that as well, which if you're self-employed, like it is, maybe you want to. Sorry, my son's just about to come down, that's why but sometimes you just need that time just to catch up. Just to be able to catch up, because it feels like often there's not even time, because somebody else wants you, and someone else and someone else. And I didn't send somebody some work the other day purposely, because I knew if I sent it, even though I'd done work for them, they were going to see it as another thing to deal with, even though it wasn't. I'd actually helped them. And then I said, I'll give it to you now, because now is when you need it.
But so we were saying earlier about that lady, I always think about, you know, when somebody, and I don't want to take it down a dark path, but when someone dies, they're not all someone who's dying. The last thing they're going to say that I wish I'd done on my deathbed was work more. They're not, or I wish I'd done more emails, or, you know, I'd wish I spent more time at the office. You know, that's not what people are going to be saying, I wish I'd done more of. So it's, before it gets to that point, it's saying, right, what is it that I want to be able to celebrate my life about? And you're saying about when she said, oh, no one else can do my job. All due respect, if somebody died today, HR would have their job advert out that afternoon. You know, that's how, in a horrible way, dispensable we are in our jobs if we're employed. Whereas in life, you're not that dispensable, because you're a family member. You've got husband, wife, children, mothers, fathers, you know, who love you, and they're the ones who should be the ones that are prioritized over your, you know, with the time inside of things, if that's how you feel you want. You know, obviously everybody's different and everyone has their own what makes them tick in the world, what serves them best. But, you know, if you identify yourself with your job, then you are going to struggle, I think, because you aren't your job. You know, like we're saying again, the AI and that.
Do you see that? Because obviously you're self-employed, and I think you and I are quite similar in many ways. I know why you went in, partly why you went into doing what you did, or do, sorry. And I do see that there is, particularly with females, I'm going to say it because they're who I would resonate with, maybe, that it's very, there's some people that are quite shouty about what you, just get on and do it, just this, just that. And that there seems to be a drop in the amount of the money talk, actually. There seems to be a bit of a drop of that at the moment. But what that success is, and that I see quite a lot of, like I said, women and men, I guess, that are quite shouty about that. When actually, for me, the success for me is that I'm not actually doing what I do for someone else, which I did actually do a post about that, about, you know, is your salary making you forget your dreams or something like that? And it was exactly about that. But this is, I know not everybody can be self-employed, and at the end of my post I said that it's also about, even with what I do, yes, it's about training. I teach people how to teach, but I also do other stuff. But what I actually do is empower them, so that when they are doing their job or their role, that so this lady, I know that she works in training, that I've empowered a lot of them to have a voice, to be listened to by people that tell them what to do, that have no idea about how much time it takes, but they will just keep putting on them and putting on them. Because obviously training is literally just about standing in front of people talking, not all of the other stuff. So it's about empowering people to enjoy what they do, because you get this dream job. We've all done it. We've had a dream job, and then you do it and you think, Christ, this isn't the dream job. It probably is. It probably is. You know, I work with people who have ADHD, and I'm not going to say coaching, but supporting them. And they are seen as the problem. And then when I start exploring it, I'm like, no, you are not the problem necessarily. Some of it may be, The problem is actually the job isn't what it said it was.
Yeah.
And that a lot of the time is what the problem there. And much of it is just that people are expected to do more and more and more. Again, I spoke to somebody else yesterday who, because their boss said they were able to do it, they expected that they would. And they said, well, actually, they didn't do all of what I do. They think they did, but they didn't. And so this person's supposed to be, and they said, I'll either end up failing or and then go out, look bad, or I'll burn out. And either way, it's not going to be me. And this is probably what you work with. And I'm trying to get this person to look at it to see that you're not invincible.
Yeah.
And probably you will end up making a mistake or being ill.
And that's the choice, isn't it? So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying just leave your job tomorrow, because I know we all have bills and lives to finance, but we do have a choice. So yes, you might not be feeling it, where you're working, but then look elsewhere while you're doing it, because just staying in it, it's not doing any, it's not going to get any better. So it's then going, right, I've given it everything I can. It's draining me now. This is, my life, my health and well-being is now suffering. If you have got, other, partner, children, they're not going to get the best from you. So even if it's, again, reframing it, even if you look at it and think, every time I give to my job, I'm taking from my family, because they're not getting the best of me. They're not getting me. I can't show up how I'd love to be there for them. So it's, again, if you put that reframe in, you can start to think, actually, why am I here? I have a choice. I don't have to be here. Yes, I might have to continue while I find something else, but at least you see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think, again, it's what I say about people having choices. We've got so lost in getting other people to tell us what to do that you forget, actually, I can choose what I do. I can create my own life. I say to people, you're the author of your own story. Every chapter, you should be the leading character. You should be taking that role and saying what you want to do and how you're going to move forward and who moves forward with you. And then on the other side of it, there's finding joy in the moments that you're in anyway. So try and flip that around. So you might not be in the best job, but hey, maybe you can look at it and go, but at least I've got a job. There's people out there that haven't got an income, who are struggling,
going in that.
And it's just something to keep you going each moment, like, hey, maybe you've got the best, there's a new coffee in the coffee room today or something. I don't know, just little things that you can go, oh, that's good. It's those tiny little snippets that just make it a little bit easier to do.
And we all do things differently. I mean, I know that Graham, you say live and breathe what you do. I saw somebody that posted the other day that they had taken their laptop away, and they went, oh, I know people are going to be shocked. And I said, but it's it's whatever you want it to be. I said, I don't, because I've got 2 kids, and it is, I need to be present, and that's our time where I don't. Not because, that's not to say that I probably won't check my emails or whatever, because I have got a business and I do need to. And I think people telling people what they should do and what they shouldn't do is, I know for me that there are times that I work at weekends, probably because I've gone and done something in the week, or because the job needed doing, or just because I blinking well wanted to, because I wanted to, because I absolutely wanted to. And that's okay too.
Well, that's life work integration, isn't it? Sorry, I say it's life work integration, where people say balance. It isn't. It's integration. It's what works for you. If you enjoy it, if you're doing something you enjoy, you're going to want to do it, aren't you? You don't have a holiday from it, so to speak.
I do great LinkedIn posts from my bed.
Well, it's not even that, Vicky. It's life.
Yeah.
Right. It's life. I mean, for some people like me, life is what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have to put up with all of this other stuff, which is living. Like resting on a beach. That's hard work for me. I don't want to rest on the beach. I mean,
we go away on a cycling holiday.
We go on holiday and we do this stuff where we lie on the beach, and like the rest of them are like, oh, it's lovely just sitting here, and I'm like, no, it's torture. It's absolute torture. I want to be doing something. No, seriously, some of that is hard, right?
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was that I mentioned to you the other day, Marianne, there was a post from somebody else that does social media stuff, and they said they hate social media, right? They've fallen out of love with social media. They've now come to realize after X amount of years of doing this, they don't like social media, right? But they're really good at it. And I get really confused by these posts now, because I'm like,
That's like me saying I don't like
why are you doing it then? Why are you doing it? And why is this a great sales post for what you do? Surely at that point you should stop doing what you do, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that as a great thing at all.
In schools, I didn't feel it anymore, and you can't be.
I enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Bring the game on. At the point at which I do not enjoy the game anymore, the point at which I think, oh, this is doing my head in, I'm leaving it. I'm stopping doing it, because I really don't see the point.
But it's creating the life you don't want a holiday from. That's basically it, isn't it? It's that, it's part of what you do. And again, that's why I had a big pivot with my business, because I didn't want to be the clinical nutritionist that sat there telling people, this is how to, that's not me. And I was finding social media such hard work, because I couldn't think what to post, because it wasn't coming from the heart. It was more head led, and that's not me as a person. So I had this major change. I just don't know what to do. I can't even think of my business. It was just giving me icks and all that. And last month or 2 months ago, I just finally had this. No, I'm going to look back at me and realize what it was. And I realized through some of my social media posts how I wanted to show up. I was thinking that's why it was looking confusing, because I was trying to say I'm this, but everything I was putting out there was this. And I was like, that's why it's not working. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking the decision. I pulled down my website. I removed all my posts or social media that was, aligned more with that side of things. And I've gone, right, no, this is how I want to show up. So you've got to feel it from the heart.
And yet, therefore, you can use, Graham, it sort of resonates with me in a way that to some degree, it's actually what coaches ought to be doing, but aren't. You probably wouldn't, and I wouldn't have seen myself as one. But actually, I've always said within my work, I do coach people as a buy thing. I do, and so then you sort of think, well, actually, maybe that's what using that. So probably along the way, we had Vanessa on the other day, and she was talking about menopause, and anybody would think I'm on commission, but for me, it is that if someone educates me, I literally will go and sell that to everybody. I everywhere I go now, I'm like talking about it. Even had somebody come back on one of the posts sort of arguing the toss, and I said, are you not getting this? If you're educated on this, then you can make changes. And I bet you then within what you do, because you come at people from a different angle, you can then educate them with the other stuff you do on the nutrition stuff. But if you just hit people with stuff, and I see that there's a few people out there that hit people with it, Graham knows what I mean, then it's going to wind people up, because sometimes people can't hear it. Not because they don't want to, but they literally can't, because if you're not listening to what's going on in their life, if you're saying to them, this is what they should be doing, but you're not hearing the entirety of it, then you're not going to get them at all. Whereas actually, if you get to know them and you nurture them, then actually you can go in with that. For me personally, and I think it's irresponsible psychologically to deal with people where you just, and I've called people out on it before, shaming people, which essentially is kind of what it does. You may then get their business because you've talked them round or you've convinced them, but actually, is it ethically right? And what long-term effect are you going to have on them? Because if once you go, once you've gone, if they can't sustain that, whereas I'm sure with the way that you would work, you'd get to know that person to see, should they do this and that? Probably, but actually, can they only do this?
I thought it was really interesting when Vicki was talking about energy earlier, because I don't think we talk enough about energy, right? And I'm not talking light bulbs, but I do think that you can probably split people out there doing business, especially their own business, into two main camps. Those that are completely money orientated and goal orientated and are competitive orientated, right? And everything's about being better than somebody else, and everything's about, achieving the next thing and all of that. And those that are happy sitting in energy, right? And a couple of examples of that. I know we're running out of time, so I'll be quick. But I don't know if you've seen the Owens family thing, the Owens on their farm there, and they're building, and they're building that new farm and whatever. You notice one of the workers that's on there has got learning difficulties or whatever, and he's standing there and he's doing things like just counting out the odd rock, right? And he's part of the team, right? In productivity wise, he ain't doing an awful lot, but the energy that he brings to that space, the joy that he's filling everybody with in that space is brilliant, right? And I think we just need to get back to enjoying other people's energy more, rather than necessarily going, oh, you're moving more rocks than somebody else.
I've been doing some work with Michael, and it's a kick. There hasn't been that money. I'd offered to help when I found out what it was, and some people said to me, I wouldn't do that if I were you. They can't pay. I said, look, I want to, so it doesn't really matter. It's what I want to do. I believe in it. Excuse me, I want to. And I've really, really enjoyed it. It's actually given me ideas about how to take my business in a different directions as well. And it's funny because I messaged him earlier on and he's like, oh, how are you? And I said, I'm fine. And then I said, oh, I did this stuff for you. Didn't give it to you. Then I forgot. He put laughing emoji. And then we had this sort of conversation, and he said, how are you? I said, overwhelmed, box is too big. I said, you know how it goes. And we've got the same energy. We just got this energy that many people would say, and he said, I've got lots going on, but hopefully it will come off. And I said, same. He said, it's not paid for stuff. I said, same. But we've got the same energy. It wouldn't have worked, because he wouldn't, like, if I'd said, no, it's going to be this much, he would have had to say, I can't use you.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Listen.
Yeah.
We have to end because it is the time. But Vicki, it's been wonderful meeting you today. Thank you for coming on.
It's been lovely.
Vicki, do you work mostly with individuals, or I know you were doing more corporate stuff, but
well, I was sort of looking at doing corporate, but no, I work with individuals. But that was sort of my pivot, was because I was doing one-to-ones, and I was thinking I'd like to do sort of day groups of people where we can, talk, that have like relaxing but yet productive kind of mind, like shift, like I said, about reclaiming, but also how you can reframe things, but how you basically take your own life and find out what works for you. So, that's why I say I'm a guide, because the word mentor or coach was too clinical or too prescriptive, whereas I think guide is letting them do the work. So yes, that's kind of how
I can absolutely see you doing that.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thank you for watching. Thank you, Vicki and Marianne, for taking part. We'll be back same time, same place next week with more of the same. But until then, from us, bye for now.